I am the genie of the lamp. Be you noble lord, or adventurous scamp, I by your hand become your thrall. Your least desire becomes my all. What wealth or plenty would satisfy you? But utter your wish, and it will come true. But, lest you stumble, like so many before, best be careful what you wish for. Hello, I'm OmnusI, your game master this evening, here in my lair. Hello, friends. I am OmnusI, here once more in my lair to talk about another topic involving this exciting hobby of ours in terms of role-playing games. And today is going to be a little controversial. You see, the subject of today's lair episode is, well, that's something that many game masters disagree on, and many players as well. It's something that is both sought after by many and feared by an equal number at least. You see, what we're talking about today are wishes in role-playing games, for those games that have reality-altering magic of the highest degree. Wishes and what they mean to your game, here on the Lair. A few wishes that I myself have experienced in my career, and had to come up with a ruling or, deal with. I wish that my character could never die. I wish that my character, a magic user, never forgot spells as he cast them, meaning effectively limitless spells of the spells they memorized. I wish my character was a ancient gold dragon, if I remember right. Those were the most egregious. You see, most game masters who deal with wishes on any level, players know how your style tolerates spells like that. And while there are some guidelines in the rules, which we'll get into in a moment, oftentimes game masters get a bit of a notoriety. My notoriety is that I enjoy the mind play. If you shoot the moon, if you ask for something completely ridiculous that is going to destroy the world, destroy the power balance in the game, so that I have to throw such ridiculous things to challenge your character that it'll wipe everybody else out in the backblast, there's a problem. And that has to be, dealt with in some way, shape, or form. Now, some players will ask for absolutely anything. Some players will look at the wish for what it is. It is an incredibly flexible magical power, but in many cases, in the case of an item, can be taken with you and used as the emergency comes up that you need it. Need to bring a friend back from the dead who fell in a tragic battle? You now have that power. Do you need to make sure that enemy that you almost killed but got away dies, well, if you hate them that badly that you'll use up that ability, sure. Do you wish to transform yourself in a modest way? Not something that's going to break the game, but incrementally increase your statistics in a game that traditionally never really lets you do that? All right, yeah, that's within the bounds of the ability, and it's not drastically going to break anything. So I don't have a problem with that. Do you wish that all the wounds of a party were healed and that you could go into the next battle at full strength? That's a nice use of a wish. I would never penalize that. Nothing I can think of at any rate. Do you wish that this particular village was expunged of a disease, something terrible? Under most circumstances, that wouldn't be a problem unless that disease was put there by somebody very powerful and had a reason, in which case that person or creature or power would take some offense to that and probably work to put the disease back. So, when these spells or abilities are conceived, there's generally an understanding that they get it. They get that some people are going to use these for their own advantage and to the devil with the balance of the game. For example, in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, under the Wish spell, the Wish spell is used to alter reality, and if it's done in respect to hit points by a party, or to bring a dead character back to life, or to escape from a difficult situation by lifting the spellcaster and the party from one place to another, no difficulty. There's no penalty. These are things easily done by the power of the spell. And therefore, the character should be rewarded with their cleverness by what they wish occurring. No cost to the character outside of the use of the spell or ability. We're going to use the spell's description here because it's the most apt for, going over the limitations. So, if other forms of wishes are used, though, the spellcaster will be weakened and debilitated for 2d4 days, requiring bed rest because of the strains of bending reality, time, space, what have you, on them. There is a cost to one's health. Later games, I believe, aged the character who so used them. And in the 5th edition, using a wish spell gives you I believe, a 50% chance of never being able to cast a wish again. So, very, very dicey. So, regardless of what is wished for, the exact terminology of the wish spell is likely to be carried through. Meaning, what you wish for, you will get. Think about that. If they get what they want in the meaning of how they ask for it, they have power akin to the referee or game master or dungeon master themselves. What they want goes. Of course, there's that caveat that it's the exact wording. Some game masters are, like myself, have become accustomed to using meaning and the definition of words and phrases to sometimes rebalance spells, sometimes to the detriment of the player. I'll continue here, though, first. The discretionary power of the referee is necessary in order to maintain game balance, as wishing another character dead would be grossly unfair, for example. Not that there aren't death spells by the time you have hit 9th level. There are plenty of spells that can instantly snuff out another character. Without a saving throw? No. But, if you have access to that level of power, there are ways to kill off a person. If they are well protected or something, well, okay, wishes are the ultimate weapon. But, as they say here, your DM may well advance the spellcaster to a future period where the object is no longer alive, putting the wishing character out of the campaign. You get what you want, that the character is dead, although in the case of an undead opponent like a lich, even that's tough. But the generally accepted response for some game masters is You get your wish, but it either transforms you or makes it impossible for you to continue on in the game. That character who wished he could no longer suffer damage, or it was impossible to kill. Well, the character who wished he could never suffer damage, I recall one game master adjudicating it as the player transformed into an adamantine statue, never able to be harmed again, but not able to move or continue along with the party. The character who never wished to age, or never wished to die, I awarded that spell. They never could die. On the other hand, it didn't stop them from aging. So, 1,000 years hence, when he's not much more than a dried up husk, still pottering around, and didn't get a great deal out of that wish, admittedly, but his, the motivations weren't really that pure anyhow, so. The character who wished to be as strong as a dragon, I thought about the maximum amount of strength that a human can leverage. I thought about the size of a dragon to, proportion. So that particular character's muscles swelled with tremendous power. Oh, he was enormous. His arms were massive, his chest huge, his thighs enormous. He was powerful. But his muscles were so big he couldn't bend. So as long as he was turning in a stubby line, he was incredibly powerful. Couldn't swing a sword, because his arms just wouldn't fix anymore. They kept bumping up against the muscles on his arms to get much of a swing in. And eventually it was undone. He asked for too much, quite frankly. So that was, honoring the wish. Yes, your character is incredibly strong. He had a 42 strength or something like that, but he couldn't bend. His frame could not hold that much strength. Or the character who was undead, sure, your soul is trapped in your body. It cannot leave. Even if your body is chopped up or whatever, it'll stay in a pile of bits. Somebody would literally have to start taking them different places before your body wouldn't pull itself back. But it didn't make it so that you could bounce blows and smile. You would still get hurt, wounded. And that character is technically still alive in my game world. We haven't revisited it, but he's the last survivor. So, another player, we did a hypothetical on a wish. He was a young player. He didn't have any experience really with wishes or much with my game style. And one of the other players is his father. And he's like, go ahead, make a wish. And I'm like, hypothetically, we'll go over the wish. And he's like, okay, well, I wish I had 1,000,000 platinum pieces. So I thought, all right. Where are you making the wish? And he's like, well, we're in an inn. I'm going to go up to my room and wish. I'm like, okay. So you go up to your room, you make your wish, and then you hear behind your door, it just groans. Okay, he opens the door. Inside, the entire room is completely filled with platinum coins. Top to bottom, every nook and cranny full of platinum. Well, he nearly wet himself with the excitement of what he could do. So he ran down the stairs and instructed the barkeep that he wished to reserve that room forever. And the barkeep's response is, well, you're an adventurer. People like you die. I don't want to have a room that I can't use. I could maybe, you could rent it for a year in advance. He's like, oh, okay, sure, no problem. A year in advance. All right, that's going to be expensive. How are you going to pay with it? Oh, I've got money. Trust me. Really? I can pay in platinum. He's like, platinum is worthless. What? Platinum is worthless. People have been pulling platinum coins like copper out of all the dwarven mines and everything. I can't give it away. I use platinum as paperweights these days. And if you're trying to buy something from me on platinum, it'd take an entire roomful just to get a week. It's not even... Copper's worth about 5 times as much as platinum on the average. And he was like, what? Yeah, a wish is powerful. It changed the reality of the world. Your platinum is nearly useless, except for the things that platinum is good for. So that is one way of how I would hypothetically deal with such a wish. So that is a part of what the founders of the game suggested for dealing with the incredible power of a wish. Now, as far as a player goes, how does a player get the most out of a wish? Number one, use it for what it's good for. Understand the limits of the game and the style of your game master. Does the game master allow you to invest in yourself and build up your character using wish magic? If you get access to the spell, or you get access to an item that grants wishes, oftentimes this can be very, very efficient. You use your prime statistics quite often, I suspect. Or if you have an attribute that's keyed to it that's connected to spell casting ability, you can make your spells harder to resist or get bonus spells depending on the addition. Seems like a good idea to me. Especially if you were already brushing up against some sort of racial maximum or something. Exceeding that with the power of the most powerful magics there are might be something the Game Master is sympathetic to. Holding on to it for emergencies can be extremely effective. If it's a spell that you keep under lock and key in your head and only use it when you absolutely must, a lot of times the situation may be something that lets the Game Master be more sympathetic to you, and therefore less likely to screw with the intention of a wish, unless that's their bent, in which case you were already kind of pre-messed with. Another thing that is useful to do with it is think about the gains that you could make from having other similarly powerful spells and try to stick within those bounds. If you exceed what you can do with a 9th level spell, which is a tremendous attack with a meteor swarm, gating, creating a planar gate, there's all kinds of fun spells. Astrally traveling, changing somebody's shape. There's a lot of good you can do. You could argue that since you are sticking to within the bounds of similar magic, you should be able to get the lenience of having what you wish for happen without critical consequence. The other avenue some people take is to try to come up with a wish that is completely impossible to tamper with in any way. I remember a classic Knights of the Dinner Table by Jolly Blackburn, an episode where one of the characters, Brian, ends up getting a wish spell for his character. And the interesting thing about that is that he went to a lawyer and had the ultimate wish for immortality drafted. Now, I can't exactly remember how that all ended, but I've never seen a player who went to that extent. Some of those wishes that I've seen were thought out, but generally also none that were so egregious that topped, the prior examples that I gave. Needless to say, everything didn't go exactly the way that Brian wanted in that particular storyline. It is hard to completely lawyer your way through, breaking a game. And in the end, you almost have to think, is it worth it? If you destroy the game balance, how are you going to be impacting the enjoyment of the game, both for yourself and for the rest of your group? Are you going to condemn yourselves to being unchallenged through the rest of your game as the one person who made the wish tramples through everything? Or are you going to risk that everyone else is going to die because the Game Master ramps the game up to challenge the wish-endowed character, leaving everyone else to suffer as grossly overpowered monsters assail them? That's a tough thing. And I know a lot of times appealing to people to be considerate of the game that they're playing in and enjoying, some people are not, don't take to that, but it's a good thing to think about. Just like in anything in your hobbies, you try to, preserve a space that you can enjoy, and that's one thing that you can think about. And it doesn't come up that often. There aren't very many campaigns that have wishes at in every nook and cranny. So, that's my advice for players. Now, for game masters, wishes are bugbears of our creation. You rarely will have players who will get wishes by their own virtues. Oftentimes they get them by items that we give out. Luck blades, rings of wishes, things of that nature. Oftentimes there is as much risk as there is reward. deck of many things, for instance, can grant a wish, but it's far more likely to suck your soul someplace nasty, or imprison you someplace out of reach of your allies. Those generally tend to balance and dissuade people from really, getting the best out of those they can. But all that being said, eventually in a game, if you're playing it, you control whether or not players have access to particular abilities. If you don't feel comfortable with wishes and wish magic and that level of ability, don't risk your players getting access to it. If you roll for random treasure and Ring of Three Wishes appears, change it. Roll something else. Don't give it to them. If you don't feel comfortable, then it doesn't have to be a part of your game. The world will still be magical without the most powerful of magics available. You'll be fine, especially if the players don't think that they are entitled to such things, necessarily. You can still enjoy the game without having access to wishes. Now, if a player does have a wish, listen and think, which is ultimately the best advice anybody can give for a game master. If you listen and you think, you will be a stronger game master for it. Knee-jerk reactions and panic rarely work for a good, solid storyline that is fair to everybody involved. If you give somebody a wish and they wish for something, you have to think, how is this going to impact my game? Try to project what something might mean. If you honor a wish as stated and as intended, will this wish cause any kind of havoc to my game? If it's just a reset button, I wish the wounds of myself and all my friends were gone. Probably not. They're in a situation that they need to use that magic to heal up. It's probably a pretty serious situation they're in already. They're actually honoring the seriousness of your encounter by making such a wish. I wish my friend who has died is back to life. Again, something bested them. Perhaps it was bad luck, especially if it was bad luck or just a foolish moment. If they use that kind of power to bring back a friend, there are magics that can do that, and they aren't necessarily the most powerful of magics that can. It's very powerful, certainly, but not the most powerful. Well, that doesn't really twist anybody's whiskers to allow a spell like that to work. But if it does, we have further advice for that. But if you think and you come to the conclusion that it doesn't drastically impact your game, it's not going to throw the balance out the window, there's nothing wrong with letting the players enjoy the magic of such a spell. And by all means, it's a wish. Go crazy with how you honor it. Not only do the party just find all of their wounds cured and their spells rememorized, a vast magical vortex surrounds them. Golden, warm, cinnamon-scented sparkles surround the whole party, invigorating them. Their wounds magically close, the pain but a distant memory. The wizards feel euphoric as the memory of their spells come flooding back into their minds, leaving otherwise gaping holes of arcane knowledge that were voided when they cast their spells refilled, as if from a fresh night's sleep. Every single one of them feels rejuvenated, and their drive, their enthusiasm replenished by the power of this magic. Go all out. It's your wish. Have fun with it. Now, that's if everything is nice. If everything isn't, go on to the next. What to do if a wish comes into your game and it's something that you don't think will balance your game. You don't think your campaign will be quite the same if this wish goes through. Couple of things. The first thing, highly, highly encourage, is communication. Talk to your player. If you have to take them off to the side and have a chat, nothing wrong with that. Honestly, I think that's a good thing to do in a game periodically anyhow. Even if you have nothing real to talk about. The player picks up a sword. I need to talk to you over to the side. Take them over to the side. Should I bring my dice? Oh yes, bring your dice. And your character sheet. And a pencil. They come over. Alright, you pick up the sword. How was your day? Did you have a good day? I hope you did. I mean, I had a nice day. You know, had a good lunch. You know, everything was good. Nothing is happening. The sword doesn't do anything, but they don't need to know that. So, and we don't talk enough. The same thing you can do periodically anytime. If somebody is making a wish and you think it's going to break the game, talk to them. Say, you know what? I have concerns about what you're wishing for. I'm giving you the courtesy of letting you know that I think this is too powerful. It's within your abilities, but then all consequences become final. Okay? If the player decides he's going to continue on, you know, you don't have to spell out how disaster is going to happen. You just say, I have concerns, and if you wish for this, everything is final. And then, you know, the player can decide if they want to rethink it. You've given them a fair shake. Especially if they might have been thinking in terms of builds and character sheets instead of what the character was thinking. So, if you do this, then you've been fair. They've been warned. And if they make another wish that's just as game-breaking, you can warn them again if you'd like. So, after that, you've warned them. Or you don't feel like warning them. You've given them enough reason to have their suspicions. Well, then, consider the source of the magic. Quite honestly, if something comes from an item, a ring of wishes, or a luck blade, or something like that, well, that magic is generally going to be fairly arbitrary. It's going to make whatever happens happen, oftentimes by the easiest form, without destroying too much of reality as it is. And sometimes removing one person or debilitating one person is the most efficient way of doing that. But there are other options. Casting a spell basically means you're levying the spellcaster's will into the equation. So what they want is going to be more likely to happen. We'll get to that in a second. Another thing that you can get wishes from are certainly magical creatures, aren't there? Leprechauns, protecting their gold, may offer wishes and favors. Genies. There are genies in Dungeons and Dragons and other games. Demons, or other powerful creatures of the outer planes, may have the ability to cast the wish spell in service of someone or something. And certainly at higher levels, spellcasters are able to bind such creatures and demand such powerful magics. Well then, you're going to have another filter between what is stated as the wish and what actually happens. The will of the creature granting that ability is certainly going to be taken into account. If it's a leprechaun, that leprechaun's mischievous nature, their chaotic, fey, nature, should certainly have an impact on the spell. If it isn't absolutely crystal of the purest of intentions, side effects or just outright subversion may happen. With a creature of evil, like an Ifrit, making a wish or demanding some service of that nature is certainly going to be looked to be perverted by the creature giving that ability. So oftentimes you will have some sort of leverage into how a wish turns out, not necessarily in the way that the caster or the petitioner asked for it. In which case, they really did ask for it. Now, it may be a little part of my reputation, but I have had characters who have passed on wishes in my games. I actually had a player who was terrified of leprechauns, to the point where during one St. Patrick's Day, a particular drunken leprechaun, he tripped on top of it, and the leprechaun goes, "Ah, you captured me. I must grant you a wish." And he got up, big, strong barbarian, powerful, and turned and ran for the door screaming. The idea of a drunken leprechaun granting a wish frightened him so. But that's what comes with understanding words and wordplay and stuff like that, and maybe having a little bit more of a reputation than even I feel comfortable with, quite honestly. I'm not looking to hose my players, but I do like them to think about things a little more deeply, and something like a wish is pretty serious magic. So those are The two avenues to look at is opening communication, then considering what's granting the wish. And then the final thing, you've talked to the player, they're making a wish. The source is neutral, you're not getting any benefit from whatever they're wishing for. The last thing is to think that if you have a well thought out world, the world itself is going to react some way. It doesn't like being shoved aside and fundamentally altered because some upstart wizard or fumbling adventurer decided he got access to way more power than he can handle and made some wish demanding that everything change for his benefit. That's not going to make the powers happy at all, is it? So if you are playing in a game that has, for instance, deities, if you make a wish against that deity's interest, well, that deity may have something to say about it. Not probably to the extent of just slapping it down. No, the wish is probably still going to work. Most deities aren't so powerful that they can instantly know when something like that is going to happen. And if they are, rarely are they so gauche as to, smite down a caster before they can cast a spell. For example, if you are really being prickly, and somebody wishes someone else raised from the dead, for instance, and you absolutely know that that character should not come back from the dead for one reason or another, and you've already explained to the player that this character is just, for whatever reason, should not be brought back from the dead, and they still go on and insist they're going to do it. Screw you and your rules. I wish this character back from the dead. Well, if there's a death god, for instance, who himself probably has, or itself, probably has fairly powerful servants, how hard is it for him to send them a prophecy saying, you should be here, I will give you a spell to send you to this place to make things right? Now all of a sudden you've got various powerful and, as far as most people are concerned, fairly amoral characters ready to do their god's bidding upon you for thwarting the plans of their master. And that goes for a lot of things. For instance, that character who wished for incredible strength, maybe you give it to them. And then maybe the avatar of the god of strength shows up and is offended that they got such power without working for it, and demands a sparring match. Well, let's see how well your new massive strength works against, the avatar of Cord, for instance, or something like that. Perhaps the god of magic shows up and decides to have a chat with appropriate use of magic. There's options like that. And even if you allow everything to be fine, you wish for the evil despotrix of Argonheim to die, the big bad evil guy of your story. Well, if you let that wish go through, the despotrix dies. Game's over. Big bad evil guy's dead. You don't have to worry about him fulfilling his plan that on the 1000th year he was going to sacrifice the 1000th virgin and ascend to godhood. He's dead. It's not going to happen now. Well done, heroes. I know you got to 7th level and you managed to find that item that you had to roll a natural 20 to find and got a wish and you killed him. Well done. Campaign's over. Guess we didn't have to go all the way to that thrilling climax that you would have had at 15th level, eh? Now how does the player feel about that? He just ended this story with one wish. Do they regret it? Do they wish that they hadn't used that wish? Maybe. Maybe they'll brag to their friends about how they beat the story at 7th level. Wahaha. Perhaps, if you're a game master and feels that way. Or maybe your world lives and breathes a little bit. The evil despotrix may know that people may end up getting access to power levels like that. They certainly dabble in that elevated sphere of power, and they understand that others may also. So if one day they drop dead, they have things in place to bring themselves back. Or the evil despotrix is really a lich. They die, their soul just goes to their phylactery, where they have another body waiting and ready. Or maybe the despotrix travels with a group. Other adventurers. Evil, of course. cracked mirror version of the hero party, perhaps. One of them is an evil priest. That evil priest has an interest in seeing the Despotrix back, so they'll use their magics to bring them back. Now the Despotrix knows that somebody used a wish to kill them, because they died and all of their defenses just didn't work. They died. So now, who dares? I'm going to make sure they never ascend to a point where they can threaten me or do that again. All of a sudden, you complicated things a bit, haven't you? Yes. By having a living world, a living, breathing world with consequences, so many things aren't really that much of an issue. If you have a player who breaks character constantly to be a murder hobo and just go around killing their way through situations, including ones that no combat is required, having a world of consequences can help put an end to that. Likewise, wishes? If your world is realized, if you understand the balance of power and the webs that bind everything together, and if somebody takes a hammer and smashes that, the reverberations go out and come back. So, all things to think about if you come to grips with having to deal with wishes. They're incredibly powerful, and they can add amazing variety and an ample opportunity for mischief to your players. But when handled right, they maintain the feeling of limitless magic in your world. They give the players an opportunity to do interesting and fascinating things that may surprise you, that may impress you. But if it turns into something that you end up regretting, perhaps it's the players who will end up regretting it a bit more. So, that's my take on wishes. I don't fear wishes. I enjoy them, and I use them on occasion. And I can tell you that you may hear all the terrible stories about players who abuse them and game masters who hand them out almost as punishments, waiting for players to hang themselves with the rope they're given. I'll tell you this. Your average player is smarter than that, and may find that level that they do something dazzlingly unique and original, but doesn't ruin the balance of your game. Or maybe they just use it in a simple way that doesn't ruin balance, but is useful to them and continues to increase their levels of power in a reasonable level, in a fair fashion. In that case, play on. So, I bet about now, though, you're wishing that it was time for some treasure. Well, your wish is granted. You don't have to know me all that well to know that magic fascinates me. If I was offered the opportunity to go into a magical world, I'd take that offer in a heartbeat. That's, I think, why things like Harry Potter are so attractive to me. The idea of just beyond a door, through a secret panel, through a wall, and you can walk into a magical world. That's got a tremendous amount of appeal to me. So things that I find in day-to-day that seem somehow magical, from an illusionist performing a trick to watching a good fantasy epic, are the kind of things that I enjoy. And anything that serves to bridge that gap. Video games, to some extent, but of course, tabletop fantasy role-playing games are certainly something I enjoy a great deal. However, if I can get something even a little closer to real life, so much the better. If I, for example, found a conveniently close LARPing group that would enable me to play a wizard like I would want to play a wizard, that would be excellent. But if I don't have that, I found something kind of close. There is an entertainment company called Magic Quest. They have basically a kind of a playground, multi-level adventure room with lots of different video displays and objects with sensors in them, from pictures to crystals studded into the walls to locations that you have to crawl through and discover. And you were given a variety of quests to go through a storyline to ultimately get to be a more and more powerful wizard. And the tool that you use to negotiate this is a wand. If you've seen my series Ask the Wizard, you will recognize the wand. It is from Magic Quest. Mine has a topper on it which gives it additional powers. Basically, this is the Master Orb. With this, I can have it programmed to any of a variety of different powers, and for the day it's stuck on that power, but I can do anything from instantly defeat a dragon to my favorite, the unicorn, which at periods when I use the wand, it gives everybody who's playing at the same location as I am some bonus gold. It's always a nice little thing, and it makes a little sound effect, which is kind of cool. A little flickering going on. It's a neat bit of kit. It's pricey, yes, but again, how often do I get to pretend to be a wizard? How often can I gesture with my wand and create some sort of an effect? It's very much wish fulfillment for me, and even though it's designed with children in mind and such, I don't mind going there with my son and kind of losing myself in the fantasy a little bit. And in the end, I ended up with this kind of cool wand, which I very much like. It suits me. But these are just some avenues. Of course, Halloween is coming up, and there's any number of opportunities to help yourself to extra props and assorted gear that can help your game out. But it's the little avenues that you find that dovetail in with whatever hobbies you're interested in that may also tend to suit you. Now, as I said, Halloween is here. I've also been gathering hats. That is my thing. I've got some new hats which I will be showing off in future videos. Masks and the like. But that's for a future time. For your bit of treasure, I grant you 10 Lair points and your own Master Orb. Don't worry, I'll take care of the power for you. Just make sure you write it on your character sheet that you have one, and if you belly up to the table with me at some point, this little thing could get you out of trouble. And as this episode was about wishing and the like, you can trust that it'll be fairly powerful. I am OmnusI, your Game Master at Large, your friend here in the dungeon. And while this episode of the dungeon, this level is now closed, I wish all of you the safest and warmest of adventures. Be careful when using those wishes. Be wise, be cautious, but I wish you luck and farewell.